Thank you for joining me today as we learn how to navigate culture. Our journey together is going to cover several different theories of culture, a model of cultural transitions to help you think about what your transition to your study abroad country will be like, and finally, what life as a cultural ambassador is all about. Let's go get it. Culture. How would you define this word? There are a lot of different definitions out there, but one that we like to use says that culture is a kind of communication, meaning that the way you behave, think, value, and organize makes up your cultural code. Many people say they want to study abroad in order to discover a new culture. If this is true for you, what about the new culture do you want to discover? While it might be nearly impossible to teach every student every aspect of the culture of the country where they're going to study, we can introduce you to a few cultural frameworks that can be applied to any student going to any country. These frameworks are almost like wearing new glasses that help you understand your host country better. Perhaps the most well-known framework is the iceberg model of culture. This model says that culture is like an iceberg. Some of it lies above the surface and can easily be seen. However, the majority of it lies below the surface and cannot be seen. Those visible aspects of culture might be food, language, literature, or even festivals. Invisible aspects of culture might be gender roles, views on raising children, and attitude towards time. This theory reminds us when we go abroad, we might first be able to observe some aspects of culture, but as we spend more time abroad, we'll be able to uncover more of those underlying beliefs, values, and thought patterns. Another cultural framework focuses on high context and low context cultures and the miscommunication that can arise between the two. High context cultures use a lot of unspoken information, where it's just assumed that you'll understand the message. Maybe they're using nonverbal communication or proverbs or colloquialisms. Low context cultures use more direct, simple, and clear messages with very little use of nonverbal communication. In low context cultures, what you see or hear is what you get. Now that we know a little more about some cultural frameworks, let's talk about what the transition will be like to that new culture. When anybody arrives in a new place, whether they cross an international border or not, there are periods of adjustment as that person becomes accustomed to the new cultural norms. Those adjustments might be fun and exciting and new, or they might be frustrating and even scary. All of these emotions and many others are perfectly normal. You'll have happy times and you'll have difficult times, and learning can happen within either space. In fact, in our experience, we found that deep learning can occur when you're experiencing real conflict or frustration. It may be useful to use the cultural transitions model to better understand the ups and downs that you may go through when you're abroad. This model has 6 different aspects. You might find yourself flowing back and forth between several of these aspects, or you might not experience any of them at all. Each person is unique in their cultural transition. When you experience cultural surprise, everything is new and generally positive. When you're going through this stage, you might find yourself thinking, I need to see everything. The process of cultural exploration will allow you to see things from a different perspective. This often happens when you have a deepened experience with your host culture. This aspect could be positive or negative. Similarly, cultural adjustment could have a positive or negative effect. This is a period where you are going through a series of trial and error, and you're starting to get your own routine down. You may experience cultural conflict when you confront your host country's values that are different from your own and start to have your own values challenged. This can be a difficult time, but also a really interesting time as you're experiencing more than just superficial aspects of your host culture. You're experiencing an aspect of culture that only comes with really spending an extended amount of time abroad. However, the more time that you spend abroad, the more likely you are to experience cultural fatigue. This happens when you have an ongoing and high level of stimuli and you just get tired. We see this happen often with people who go abroad and learn another language. If you're going to go through this phase, you might find yourself increasingly irritable and have a decline in interest in your host culture. Cultural stress may take place if you have overstimulated yourself for an extended amount of time. This can lead to frustration and annoyance also. I want to reiterate that even though some of these aspects of cultural transition sound scary or overwhelming, you sometimes have to go through those moments to experience real learning. And nobody's experience is the same. One piece of advice I can give you is to find a support network of people who are not going through the same cultural transitions that you are. If you're in a negative space and you try to find support from somebody else in an equally negative space, chances are you're going to stay in that space for a while. So outside support could be useful. This might be local students or a homestay that already adjusted to the culture, or even the Study Abroad Office. Also, be thinking about how you survive times of stress when you're at home. Do you like to read, go jogging, cook? Whatever your jam is, try to incorporate it into your life abroad. When you study abroad, you're in a really unique position. Not only are you going abroad as an individual, but you're going abroad as a representative of the University of South Carolina and as a representative of America. People that you encounter on your overseas experience may form ideas about all Americans based on what they observe about you. This is why we say that study abroad participants are cultural ambassadors. This can be a lot of pressure. You have the ability to influence opinions about Americans. So what are some ways to be a successful cultural ambassador? A good start would be by following all host country laws, as well as the Carolinian Creed. Do your research before you go to better understand your host country. Talk with exchange students here on campus. Read the local news. Try to learn the local language beforehand. Learning common phrases and greetings beforehand will mean a lot to the people that you meet. Be open to new ideas and new experiences, but at the same time, don't lose sight of your own identity and values. In this way, you'll be bicultural. Well, that concludes my seminar on theory. Don't forget to tune into the other modules on academics, health, and safety.